Amira's story about her 22q11.2 deletion syndrome at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, published August 2nd, 2019. For one thing, it's a kid to be interested in a football player is one thing, but it's another thing when a football player is interested in a kid. Sasquatch Barkley, the running back for the New York Giants, named NFL's Offensive 2018 Rookie of the Year, his cousin Amira was in the hospital for 22q11.2 deletion syndrome, and he believed that going towards the cleats of the year and making 22q11.2 deletion syndrome known around the world based on his influence in the NFL. Also, 22q11.2 deletion syndrome in diverse populations by Paul Kurisky, published April 2017, states that 1 in 1,000 to 1 in 6,000 live births have 22q11.2 deletion syndrome, and 1 in 1,000 fetuses have that are done in the laboratory have 22q11.2 deletion syndrome. So today I will be talking about 22q11.2 deletion syndrome. First, I will be talking about how CRKL, the protein that codes genes, affects 22q11.2. Then I will be talking about how people that have 22q11.2 deletion are more prone to get schizophrenia, as well as how they are more prone to get birth defects. Krill, the protein that codes genes, deals with the D Gray syndrome of genital and urinary abnormalities. It happens in the fetal tissue of internal organs, brain, skeletal, and muscle. Also, when they studied mice, they noticed that a neural, heart, and other congenital disorders happen to the mice that that had the protein issues. Also, in cryptocydium, which is when the testes of the mice are supposed to drop, they didn't drop all the way, so it resulted in fewer pups and fewer fertility. Now, since I've talked about what 22q deletion 2 is in CRKL krill, I will be talking about how 22q deletion syndrome deals with schizophrenia and the auditory hallucinations rooted in aberrant brain connectivity. Schizophrenia symptoms may be a result of increased connections between sensory and language processing brain areas by Elsevier, published June 30th, 2020. They did a study where 110 control people that didn't have 22q11.2 syndrome and 120 people that did, they found that in the study that the abnormalities in the thalamus, the gateway to the sensory information, was smaller in people that have 22q11.2. In the thalamic nuclei by Ken Hub, published July 6, 2020, the thalamic nuclei are clusters of densely packed neural cell bodies that comprise the thalamus, showed regulating the auditory and sensory information within the medial and lateral nucleus were smaller in people with 22q11.2. Now that I've talked about how schizophrenia affects 22q11.2, I will be talking about how 22q.2 people get birth defects. The researchers discovered genetic syndrome linked to inherent birth defects by Mayo Clinic, November 6, 2003. In 22q11.2, birth defects are inherited mostly. The rearrangement of DNA, which are called microduplications, occurs. The DNA segments repeated and cause a surplus of genes, which can cause symptoms of misshapen face, wide eyes, eyebrows higher, narrow faces, ears pointed, hearing and speech impurities, malfunctions, spleen and thalamus gland, and heart defects, fatal immune function, degrees of mental impairment, and 50% of it is inherited. Now that I've talked about 22q11.2 with krill, and how it is the protein that codes genes, how 22q.2 is with schizophrenia, also how 22.2 deals with birth defects, getting it early catched on like it did from our era, then you have more hope for the child to be screened, so then you can get their diagnosis done earlier so that they can get on correct medicine regimen. But there is no cure for it, but you can try to alleviate the symptoms of it.